I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting of Monday, March 4th, 2019. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Mayor Berman?
Here.
Trustee Cofino?
Here.
Trustee Lowry?
Yeah, here.
Trustee Curtis? Here. Trustee Carroll?
Here.
Trustee Cofino? I'm sorry, Trustee Gately.
Here.
Any trustee comments at this time? Discussion. Item number 1, Mr. Toth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1 is discussion of the North Aurora Riverfront Park, which is adjacent to Village Hall here, between Village Hall and the Fox River. In 2017, the Riverfront Master Plan was completed. As part of that plan was the North Plaza entry design. This is the original concept plan that was approved by the Village Board as part of that Riverfront plan. As you'll see here, we have this sort of rigid plaza as an entryway into the park. Last year, the village actually approved an agreement to work with Teske Associates, our in-house consulting group, who actually did the riverfront plan. And we've been working through different planning sessions with them. There have been a couple of iterations of the concept plan. We've been actually included Norda in on a couple of the meetings, and also too, the Lions Club had interest in a sensory, sort of sensory amenity in the park plan itself. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jody Mariano with Teske Associates. She's going to run us through the plan real quick, and just looking to get some feedback from the village board on the plan as it stands right now.
Great. Thank you, Mike, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me back. We were thrilled to be asked to assist with the next iteration of this plan. Could you go back to that first one just for a quick moment? Thank you. So just as was mentioned a moment ago, we did work with the village in 2017 on the Riverfront Master Plan. We worked with a committee that was comprised of village staff and the Park District and NOARDA and some other groups. And as Mike mentioned, we were asked to come back and look more closely at the first phase of that, which would be the entry plaza area. The entry plaza area is the area that would bring you from the parking lot into the green space of the park. What we did in this most recent iteration, we've been looking more closely. We were able to obtain through the village staff a topographical survey. We were able to have some discussions with staff and with NOARDA and the Park District. And what we looked at more closely was how can we add the plaza in and have sort of a relatively light touch on the landscape. There is quite a bit of topography, as you all know, so we wanted to make sure that the plaza was in keeping with existing grades and didn't cause too much disruption or a creation of unnecessary retaining structures. The other piece that we wanted to look at were making connections to the parking lot, also to the Village Hall entry door, and to the pathway system beyond. And we wanted to set the tone for materiality of this plaza. This being the first phase of development, we wanted to make sure that it was something that was felt like it would belong to the rest of the park. And then lastly, we wanted to provide opportunities for other groups to come in and put their own thumbprints on. So we heard, as Mike mentioned, that the Lions Club and NOARDA wanted to add some features to the plaza space, things that could be more sensory type elements, so we wanted to leave placemakers for those things. So just to carry you through the spaces, if you were to walk into the plaza today, and if it were built, from the parking area up at the north would be a new concrete walk and a little bulb-out plaza space. Oh, thank you, Mike. A little bulb-out plaza space that would have some trash bins and some bike racks and some bench seating area and some bollards that would separate the parking area from the pedestrian area. Once you're inside, you can make your way down to what we call the entry plaza. The entry plaza is that circular area where the cursor is. And then, most importantly, one of the things that was discussed early on is how to treat the spillway bridge structure that's out there today. It is kind of unsightly. It has railings that don't meet code. And so the village staff engaged their engineering consultant to do some evaluations. We were able to review those materials, and we believe there is an opportunity to maintain the spillway structure underneath, but replace the top with a proper railing and a better concrete walk to make a safer connection. And so That would provide connections from the entry plaza to the exit door and up to the entry door of the Village Hall. And then working your way down from the entry plaza, you have two opportunities to get to the upper plaza below. One is through some wide stairs, or if you were in a wheelchair or pushing a stroller, you could take the route that Mike just showed, which would be an asphalt path. Once you're in the upper plaza area, there is an opportunity for some overlook and some opportunities for fishing to take place, over at that spillway area. Some spaces for retaining boulders and seat walls, and also a space for a fireplace or a fire pit element. This would be something that we think is, part of those sensory features that the other groups mentioned they'd be interested in. Then, the other piece is the asphalt path that would connect you all the way to the existing asphalt path that follows the river. So we want this to be well integrated into the system that's already in place. Some of the elements that we're looking at really want to pick up off of the existing materials that are out there today. So the large stone outcroppings that you see in Water Wonders, native plantings are incorporated. One of the things that we also discussed with the group was allowing an opportunity for some future nature play features, and so that's shown in yellow and also in the green space up to the northwest of the entry plaza. Do you want to go to the next one? Are the photos in there?
The photos, let's see here.
Hey, Jody, if you want to, at this
Yeah.
point, while you're looking for that, the future nature play area was specific to, correct me if I'm wrong, but was for the Lions Club reached out to the village a while back and asked if there was a project that they can get involved with to meet their mission for a community project. We told them that we were working on this project and they thought doing something in the park might make sense. They said it on a meeting when we went over the plaza plan and the tweaks that we were making to it. And that future nature play area is specific to, we said that, if the Lions Club wanted to move forward with the project, they don't have to do it with the plaza. They, I think, just recognize that there might be an opportunity for it right by the plaza area to make basically an enhancement for people to want to go to that area of the park. So we're just pointed it out on the map that could be something. It's not necessarily definite, but that could be an area.
Thank you for clarifying, yes. And so some of the materials and products that we've all been looking at, again, to try and borrow on the existing design vocabulary that's out there today and to try and replicate what we see out there is shown here. So the boulders and the outcroppings and the stairs are shown at the bottom of the screen. The stone fire pit is in the middle. Concrete paving, with the available budgets that we have, we wanted to try and be as practical as we can and also durable. So concrete paving was looked at for the material of the plaza itself. The stone seat walls are shown on the right-hand side. Tables and chairs were discussed at great length, and so we decided that we wanted to make sure that we had tables and chairs that could invite a lot of use and be very lively and welcoming, but also be fixed to the ground. And so those were some samples there. And then up at the top, you can see some items, interpretive signs, a fishing rod holder, and railings. These would all be part of that overlook that would allow you to look out over the upper plaza and to fish, as we understand already happens today. So I'm happy to answer any questions. That's sort of where we're at with the concept. I could mention that as far as next steps goes, we understand that the village would be working with their engineering consultant to secure permitting. The IDNR, the Army Corps of Engineers will need to be reviewing this. This is just a concept, but once the permitting is in place, then part of TESCA scope is to produce construction level documents that could be used for bidding and to guide installations.
I think it's important at this point to bring the board up to speed on, and I know I sent this a while back, but the original concept that staff was working on with the Park District of Norda and everyone when we started gathering thoughts obviously morphed into this, but we had a concept, as you see on there where it says Lower Plaza, we were getting prepared to go to the Village Board Committee of the Whole to discuss this plan with the upper plaza and the lower plaza, but without doing anything to the bridge. When we started looking on it, it was one of those things where the bridge is, as we mentioned, we're going to have to do something with the railing. It's not in very aesthetically pleasing condition. So staff said, okay, why don't we had WBK Engineering do a study to just say, what can we do to either fix the bridge, get rid of the bridge. Originally, we were going to get rid of the bridge in general and just take it out and leave a wider channel of water. But as we looked at it, I think we realized that even though it was more expensive, refurbishing the bridge, so to speak, to blend it with the plaza and make that whole entrance when you first come in off the parking lot probably looks more inviting and substantial than having just an open channel of water there. So we decided to enhance it by adding the overlook over the spillway. But to reduce cost, we took out the lower plaza in this design. Now, before we go over dollar amounts, and as you know, these are always estimates, so we haven't bid this out. We don't know exactly what the costs are going to come back. You know, one thing that we have talked about doing is adding the lower plaza back in as an alternate to the bid and just seeing what the pricing comes back at. If you end up getting the project much lower than you budgeted for, you may be able to do everything at once. Or we just don't accept the alternate and we go with the first part.
Has any consideration been given about possibly selling bricks for, like memorial bricks for the walkways or whatever to help fund it?
Well, we haven't talked about that yet, but I mean, just so I want to make this clear, I don't think there's any brick, unless it's in the seating walls, but it is stamped concrete is what we're looking to do.
It is, but to answer your question, there are certainly lots of opportunities to welcome donors to participate in some sort of acknowledgement in the landscape. While it might not be bricks, because we don't have unit pavers in this project, there are lots of other opportunities to do that, whether that be boulders or small signage, landscape features, for sure.
One other thing I should mention too is we haven't applied for any grants yet, but there is a grant that we are looking at that we think applies for this type of project. I believe that grant cycle closes in the middle of the summer. So what we're hoping for is that the board basically gives direction tonight on whether or not you like the way it looks. And if you're good with that, then what we would do is, as Jody said, she would start getting the bid specs ready. We would also be preparing a possible grant application.
Yeah, that would cover Oswald. Would be in the grant. Well, I think it's great myself. It's certainly an improvement.
Yeah, I like the concept as well. This seems like it's well thought out and kind of bringing the natural materials. I think it's kind of key. It looks, with the boulders and the railings and just things, it looks kind of rustic but natural and looks like a nice fit. So nice job, everybody.
It'll tie into the events that we host there, down here anyhow.
One of the things we've talked about in parking and walkways would be the bricks that are more for impervious, I guess, that let the water go through and whatever. So that's a thought. I know it's more expensive, but obviously it's a thought that might be worthwhile, especially if you're looking for grants. I think to be more considerate when there's something of that nature. So, any other questions?
Sorry.
No, I have none.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
And item number 2 is annexation of Lippold Park. And I know that we have Jeff Palmquist from the Fox Valley Park District here. So, Jeff, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Happy to be here. Lippold Park is actually the only property of the Fox Valley Park District that's not within the corporate limits of North Aurora. The two agencies strive to try to have contiguity in every other park as it's either been built or was originally part of Aurora Township as part of the Park District. So I think this is an important, I don't want to trivialize it by calling it housekeeping, but an important measure that allows contiguity with all of our parks. There are other reasons, the public safety, we have consistency there. and any building, construction permitting, special events permitting. If they overlap between Red Oak and Lippold, and I know our recreation department's getting more ambitious in terms of what we can do. Bugfest is one, other festivals and events. As it is now, if there's something outside that we would need to be permitted, we'd have to do the county for Lippold and Red Oak. So rather than having some of those hurdles, annexation, getting it all within the village, I think is a very good, a good measure.
Yeah, and to dovetail into that a little bit too, having a 43-acre park amenity in your community is not a bad thing. It does well in our analysis and sort of our performance as a community. Jeff kind of covered everything I was going to say, but we just wanted general feedback if there were any questions or concerns. Red Oak was done without an annexation agreement. We were kind of looking to go in that same direction. So with that being said, if there was support to move forward with this, we would just come to the next village board meeting on the 18th with a public hearing and then the official annexation of Lippold Park.
Sounds good.
Wasn't there just a grant that the Park District was awarded for Lippold Park?
That was an OSLAD grant
Yeah.
from a couple of years ago, right?
But you just got it. I read it in the Beacon.
That's actually, this, Lippold was a couple of years ago. That was
Okay.
one down
Okay.
south, yeah, by the old hospital, yeah. But I think it helps from a grant standpoint too, just to have that contiguity and more simplicity in terms of, like I said, permitting. It eliminates an agency, the county now, that has to be involved in what we would be working with the village
I think
on.
that's a great idea.
Plus, another ancillary benefit for us is if you haven't seen Lippold Park, it's a beautiful park, and it does have nice amenities, including a walkway through a lagoon and a really cool nature area for kids
Right.
and an outdoor pavilion. But it's the first entrance on the Fox River Trail that you would enter North Aurora in if you were coming from the north. So we've talked to the Park District a little bit, but we were talking about putting signs up on the trail that says "Welcome to North Aurora" or something along the lines of "You're now entering North Aurora," so that people know when you're on the trail. It's really hard to know which town you're in sometimes. Now, when they see that, hopefully we go forward with a sign, you'll see that right as you're entering Lippold Park and you see this beautiful park. So.
It makes sense.
Thank you, Steve, yes.
Makes sense to me to have that as ours. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Any comments, any questions, any more questions, for Jeff?
No, I think it's,
All right. Item number 3, Mr. Toth.
All right, our third and final community discussion for tonight is the Town Center Economic Incentive Agreement. You all are familiar with the concept. We've gone through this at the February 4th, bless you, Operations Committee, and also we were before the Village Board for a cow discussion on the 18th. We're following the general template for the discussion, so all the general framework and different provisions that we discussed throughout those discussions are built into the agreement itself. Again, this is a draft agreement at this point. It's open for discussion. One of the items that came up during the previous discussion, I believe it was in the Operations Committee, was prevailing wage. Prevailing wage is mentioned in the current agreement, but it is not, it only applies to the applicability that is required by state law. And just to note too is that it was not included in the original agreement. So with that, we do have representative Preferred Real Estate here to answer any questions you might have, but just sort of opening up for any questions you might have on the concept agreement, the draft agreement.
so yeah, I'd like to just make a few comments. When I first came to our Development Committee, or the Operations Committee, we weren't really thrilled about the project just in general, but due to the staff's hard work, a year project of getting this to where it was, we pushed it to the cow, which was last meeting. Of course, everybody knows what I think about prevailing wage. Prevailing wage helps the community. Most people in the community like to bid on projects like this to make sure we get equal pay for that type of work. We have a good labor profile, meaning that the work that's done in the village is prevailing wage. Prevailing wage is a step up for a lot of people here. When I talk to people in North Aurora, they like to see us take a stand on things like this. Sure, we bring in different type of jobs, but we need to think about our labor profile and bringing in jobs that pay well for people and with benefits. So I would like to see us to adopt this project as a prevailing wage project. Makes
I
sense?
agree with you on
Makes
on
sense.
that. Any other comments on prevailing wage?
I'm in complete agreement with the concept of having prevailing wage in the contract, so.
All right, let's move on.
I'd like to say, I don't think if it's not necessary, why include it? Because it's going to stifle competition. I don't see why we should force businesses within our community to have to pay more for a project than, let them coordinate and hire who they want to hire.
The over 75% of the studies that have concluded that prevailing wage has no impact on the cost of the projects. So in other words, the labor portion of a project is very minuscule to any labor project.
Good evening. My name is Doug Vitale. As it relates to the cost of the project, prevailing wage, in many cases, does affect the cost of the project. It will drive the cost up. A lot of the MEP trades we use, plumbers, electricians, HVAC contractors, they're already at that rate or higher. It's a lot of the finishing trades, painting contractors, flooring contractors. We like to try and open that up to bid. The people that we bring in to do the work are the same people that we have brought in over the last 10 years to build out the spaces in the center. It's not substandard work, and it's certainly not a substandard labor force. But it will force the cost of the project to go higher than where we are right now.
Here, I got something for you. This is from the Indiana State House. We got rid of prevailing wage. So far, we haven't saved a penny. Ed Soliday, Assistant Republican Floor Leader, Indiana House. There is no study or conclusive study that prevailing wage raises your labor costs. I just haven't seen any.
Other than the fact that I've been building for well over 40 years, we build union projects when we're in the city. We do mixed projects throughout the country as it relates to union and open shop. When we're forced to go into a situation where we have to do certified payroll, prevailing wage, a lot of people in economies like this, when it's strong, if they have to go that extra step, they'd rather not bother with it and move on. And so then we're left trying to find a subcontractor that is willing to go that extra step.
So I would say, from watching some of the projects that have been built here, that looking at Texas plates, Indiana plates, Minnesota plates, I just don't feel that bringing in out-of-area contractors and low-wage workers is something that we want to subsidize. I certainly don't want to.
Well, again, the folks that we're bringing in aren't from out of state. They're all local contractors.
Well, you have a general contractor that you'll have do that type of bid work, right? You're not actually a general contractor, or are you?
I have been a general contractor in the past, yeah.
Okay, you're going to general contract this particular project?
We haven't decided that yet.
Well, that's where I'm at. It's tax revenue. It's incentivized.
I'm sorry, all the subcontractors that we bring in are going to be local guys. It's not people coming from Wisconsin or Indiana. They're all folks that have been doing the work in the center for the last 10 years, which are all local folks.
Well, they're asking for a subsidy from us to subsidize your project. And it's the question is it prevailing wage or not? The question to me, it is. If it isn't, it should be, because it's tax revenue. So that I think the village needs to make a stand and say either we're going to pay prevailing wage on tax incentive projects or we're not. We don't currently do it on TIFs. Aurora does it on TIFs. So it's just my position that this should be a prevailing wage project. I don't know what else to tell you. That's how I feel.
I understand.
That's my position. And it doesn't raise your costs. There's no conclusive study that it does, even though you say it does.
Mark Carroll, do you have any comment?
I would agree that here, we're given a large subsidy for this project, and I would agree that as a village, we should be adopting the prevailing wage for this project.
Mark?
I agree as well. The trustee Gately's point, I know one project that was built here in town, and the tile and carpet people were all out of Texas, and that doesn't help our people in our community. And if this helps that also, to bring in local trades or local people that pay taxes in our town, eat in our town, buy gas in our town, I agree with you both guys that prevailing wage is the way to go, especially, like I said, we're subsidizing it, so I think that's good. And you get a good product when you're done, you know, with the trades.
Obviously, the prevailing wage was not the issue necessarily. I think it was the presentation on the incentive agreement itself. So,
Well, I'm in favor of the incentive agreement with the prevailing wage.
With the prevailing wage, yes, of course.
I think, is that the feeling of the committee that, or the board that,
I would just like to say that if what Mark is saying is true, that it does not inflate the cost, then why include it? Why not leave it up to the discretion of the developer? I don't, and I understand Mark's point too, people coming in from out of state, but regardless, for a temporary construction job, people are coming in, I don't care from where, they're still gonna, rent hotel rooms, eat food, buy, spend money in the economy while they're on the job. But to me, I think we shouldn't be stifling a developer's right to control their costs. And I think that's what prevailing wage takes away from them at some point.
Well, go ahead, Dale.
well, I think the majority here is supporting Major. You want to continue on, Mike, with the presentation on the incentive agreement, or?
Yeah, the presentation's over. We're just looking for any feedback that.
So the project was 1.5 million, or what was the?
Correct. It was
refresh?
anticipated with all the different elements of the plan that it would equate to about $1.5 million in total.
Is that his estimate, I guess?
That's based upon current sales tax figures.
No, you mean the build-out cost?
Yes.
Yes, the build-out cost is on their estimate.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm still not 100% sold on it, just because that's a lot of money, for a gym that going to generate some foot traffic, but maybe nothing else.
Here, I think, I just read an article last week that JCPenney's is closing another
500.
so many stores.
500.
So I think that rather than have that plaza be a ghost town in the future, I like the idea of some development there, and hopefully it'll.
I'm not
spur-
against some development, but we always seem like we do this where it's better than nothing, and let's just do it, and it's kind of sad that we go that route. It's not really retail. I know retail is struggling, but, a gym, guys and gals come and go. I don't know how much, how much they would, the sales tax is minimal.
Well, the problem is we got 4 empty buildings out
I
there
know,
too
I know.
that are sitting.
I'm not arguing with you about that, but it's just, I'm on the fence, I wish it was a slam dunk and really sounded good, but it's that.
I feel the same way I did about the storage garage.
Yeah, that was kind of the same situation, yeah. Yep, so.
I mean, I can tell you that we would guarantee you that there's no out-of-state contractors on this project. Everybody would be local.
Well, that's good, then you
I mean,
can
we-
pay,
when we
then we
fill
can
out the
adopt
permit app-
prevailing wage, and they can pay that, the local going rate.
When we fill out the permit application, you'll see exactly who it is.
I think the feeling is that we can, you'll bring it to the board, a meeting with, including the prevailing wage, but I think there's a majority, or it looks like a majority that's interested in the project per se. So I think that's the answer for tonight's meeting. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, sir. Anything else to come before us? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Here you go, let me give you this.
They want to do it, fine. If they don't want to do it,
I've been to the mountain and the committee meetings with these.
No, he was not the incentive dollar. He was, yeah.